First Kings chapter 7. King Solomon also built a palace for himself. It took 13 years to finish building Solomon's palace. He also built the building called the Forest of Lebanon. It was 100 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. It had 4 rows of cedar columns. On top of each column was a cedar capital. There were cedar beams going across the rows of columns. They put cedar boards on top of these beams for the ceiling. There were 15 beams for each section of columns. There was a total of 45 beams. There were 3 rows of windows on each of the side walls. The windows were across from each other. There were 3 doors at each end. All the doors, openings, and frames were square. Solomon also built the porch of columns. It was 50 cubits long and 30 cubits wide. Along the front of the porch there was a covering supported by columns. Solomon also built a throne room where he judged people. He called this the Hall of Judging. The room was covered with cedar from the floor to the ceiling. The house where Solomon lived was inside of Hall of Judging. The house was built the same as the Hall of Judging. He also built the same kind of house for his wife, the daughter of the king of Egypt. All of these buildings were made with expensive blocks of stone. These stones were cut to the right side with a saw. They were cut in the front and in the back. These expensive stones went from the foundation up to the top layer of the wall. Even the wall around the yard was made with expensive blocks of stone. The foundations were made with large, expensive stones. Some of the stones were 10 cubits long, and others were 8 cubits long. On top of those stones, there were other expensive stones and cedar beams. There were walls around the place yard, the temple yard, and the porch of the temple. Those walls were built with 3 rows of stone and 1 row of cedar timbers. King Solomon sent a message to a man named Huram in Tyre. Solomon brought Huram to Jerusalem. Huram's mother was an Israelite from the family group of Naphtali. His dead father was from Tyre. Huram made things from bronze. He was a very skilled and experienced worker. So King Solomon asked him to come, and Huram accepted. So King Solomon put Huram in charge of all the bronze work. Huram built all the things made from bronze. Huram made 2 bronze columns. Each column was 18 cubits tall and 12 cubits around. The columns were hollow and the metal was 3 inches thick. Huram also made 2 bronze capitals that were 5 cubits tall. Huram put these capitals on top of the columns. Then he made 2 nets of chains to cover the capitals on top of the 2 columns. Then he made 2 rows of bronze that looked like pomegranates. They put these bronze pomegranates on the nets of each column in order to cover the capitals at the top of the columns. The capitals on top of the 5 cubits tall columns were shaped like flowers. The capitals were on top of the columns. They were above the bowl-shaped net. At that place, there were 20 pomegranates in rows all around the capitals. Hiram put these two bronze columns at the porch of the temple. One column was put on the south side, and one was put on the north side of the entrance. The column on the south was named Jachin. The column on the north was named Boaz. They put the flower-shaped capitals on top of the columns. So the work on the two columns was finished. Then Hiram made a round thing from bronze. They called this thing the sea. The thing was about 30 cubits around. It was 10 cubits across and 5 cubits deep. There was a rim around the outer edge of the thing. Under this rim, there were 2 rows of bronze gourds surrounding the thing. The bronze gourds were made in one piece as part of the thing. The thing rested on the backs of 12 bronze bulls. All 12 of these bulls were looking out away from the thing. 3 were looking north, 3 east, 3 south, and 3 west. The sides of the thing were 3 inches thick. The rim around the thing was like the rim of a cup or like the petals of a flower. The thing held about 11,000 gallons. Then Hiram made 10 bronze carts. Each one was 4 cubits long, 4 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high. The carts were made from square panels set in frames. On the panels and frames were bronze lions, bulls, and cherub angels. Above and below the lions and the bulls there were designs of flowers hammered into the bronze. Each cart had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles. At the corners there were bronze supports for a large bowl. The supports had designs of flowers hammered into the bronze. There was a frame on top for the bowl. It was 1 cubit tall above the bowls. The opening for the bowl was round and 1.5 cubits in diameter. There were designs carved into the bronze on the frame. The frame was square, not round. There were 4 wheels under the frame. The wheels were 1.5 cubits in diameter. The axles between the wheels were made as one piece with the cart. The wheels were like the wheels on a chariot. Everything on the wheels, the axles, the rims, the spokes, the hubs were made from bronze. The 4 supports were on the 4 corners of each cart. They were made as one piece with the cart. There was a strip bronze around the top of each cart. It was made as one piece with the cart. The sides of the cart and the frames had pictures of cherub angels, lions, and palm trees carved in the bronze. These pictures were carved all over the carts, wherever there was room, and there were flowers carved on the frame around the cart. Hiram made 10 carts, and they were all the same. Each cart was made from bronze. The bronze was melted and poured into a mold. So all the carts were the same size and shape. Hiram also made 10 bowls. There was 1 bowl for each of the 10 carts. Each bowl was 4 cubits across and each bowl could hold about 230 gallons. And put 5 of the cars on the south side of the temple, and the other 5 cars on the north side. He put the large tank in the southeast corner of the temple. Huram also made pots, small souls, and small bowls. Huram finished making all the things King Solomon wanted him to make. This is a list of the things that Huram made for the temple of the Lord. 2 columns, 2 capitals shaped like bowls for the top of the columns. 2 nets to go around the capitals. 400 pomegranates for the 2 nets. There were 2 rows of pomegranates for each net to cover the 2 bowls for the capitals on the top of the columns. 10 carts with a bowl on each cart. The large tank with 12 bulls under it. The pots, small souls, small bowls, and all the dishes for the Lord's temple. Huram made all the things that King Solomon wanted. They were all made from polished bronze. Solomon never weighed the bronze what was used to make these things. There was too much to weigh. So the total weight of all the bronze was never known. The king ordered these things to be made near the Jordan River between Sukkot and Zarethan. They made these things by melting the bronze and pouring into the molds in the ground. Solomon also commanded that many things be made from gold for the temple. These are the things that Solomon made from gold for the temple: the golden altar, the golden table, the special bread offered to God was on this table. The lampstand of pure gold. There were 5 on the south side and 5 on the north side in front of the most holy place. Gold flowers, lamps and tongs, the cups, the tools used to keep the lamps bright, the bowls, the pans, the dishes of pure gold for carrying ashes, the doors at the entrance to the temple. So King Solomon finished the work he wanted to do for the Lord's temple. Then King Solomon got all the things that his father David had saved for this special purpose. He brought these things into the temple. He put the silver and gold in the treasuries in the Lord's temple. This is the word of God, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you everyone for coming. See you all soon.